It was Siberia. It was a field of snow so deep that the pronghorn didn't stand a chance of survival.
It didn't melt out until May, and when it did, it reeked of death right here. And you didn't have to go 100 feet out that fence, and it was just littered with dead pronghorns. And that was, you know, when I was approached about it, it's just like, how can I not do something? I never want to see that again.
I've never been to Africa, but I have to imagine a safari going out in Wyoming across the plains and seeing 50 pronghorn, 75 pronghorn. That's probably as close as a guy like me will ever get. They're so unique. You know, it's like they've almost got their own brand.
They're tough. They got great eyes. They're faster than heck. They're just an incredible species. And when you see them run, and they're running as a herd, it just takes your breath away.
We used helicopter net gunning to capture about 45 pronghorn and then equip those pronghorn with GPS collars. This study was initiated by the Game and Fish and the Wyoming Migration Initiative, and the purpose of it was to document the movement and distribution patterns of pronghorn out here in the Red Desert. More than half the pronghorn in the world occur in the state of Wyoming, but in general, pronghorn in Wyoming and across the West are struggling. Movement for big game, and pronghorn in particular, is especially important because it allows them to access different habitats, avoid predators, find mates, and respond to different environmental conditions. The winter of 2022-23 was unusually severe in terms of both the amount of snow that we had, but also the duration that that snow was on the ground.
If you had been here, you're covered up with snow right now. That's how, we had that much snow on the level right here. It was insane.
When we downloaded and mapped all these GPS data, what we saw was these really extraordinary movements that we'd never witnessed before. The one individual that stuck out to me the most was a pronghorn that left in late December, and it moved to the south and east and ran into a fence, and then it moved directly south and ran into the interstate, and then it moved to the northwest and ran into some fences, and then it moved back north to where it initially came from. Over the period of nearly 50 days, it covered over 200 miles, and then died just a few miles from where it originally left. In contrast to deer and elk that can easily jump over fences, pronghorn prefer to move underneath the fences, and so a lot of these fences are woven wire, so pronghorn can't move underneath them.
You occasionally will see one that gets stuck. A lot of times it's because they try to jump and they're not really good at it. But more with pronghorn, I think what you see is them pacing back and forth, and then ultimately sometimes at their own peril. They walk back and forth until they're dead.
Downloading and mapping those collars, is always bound to be some surprises in there. For this particular study, the surprise was that pronghorn were being excluded from tens of thousands, in fact nearly 100,000 acres of habitat because of livestock fences. The winter of 2022-23 really illustrated the effect that barriers like fences and roads can have on pronghorn movements. Once the Game and Fish got this information, they immediately did a site visit. They coordinated with the BLM and the landowner.
I I started looking at that data, and there were some very clear areas where pronghorn were not moving very well. And one of those areas happened to be your ranch.
My grandfather bought this place. They were a big sheep family. And so he bought this and then fenced it with the woven wire. Fast forward 75 years and we no longer have sheep. I knew we had an issue here, that historically we've always probably had an issue here.
Replacing fencing is expensive, and a lot of times that's why fences from the 1950s don't get replaced.
So if the fence can accommodate being a wildlife-friendly fence and control our livestock, I was all in. And then it was just next thing you know, she called, she's like, well, we're doing the whole thing.
We got it.
Yeah, perfect.
We know we can snap our fingers, and in this particular project, make 16 square miles of habitat available for pronghorn by modifying 24 total miles of wildlife unfriendly fencing right now, or woven wire fencing. So that if we face another winter like 2022 or 2023, they might have a fighting chance of survival.
In less than a year, 20-some miles of fence was rebuilt, and more than 10,000 acres of habitat's now available for pronghorn.
Would we have done it on our own? Absolutely not. You know, we would have lived with that fence for another 75 years. We just would have. And so, you know, for me, and my family, you know, I want to thank you. Yeah, definitely.
This project means a lot because of the magnitude and the vast area that it actually put back in play for an iconic species in Wyoming. And it's something that we want to manage to keep, and keep large numbers forever.
What about elk? Do you think they're up there?
No, elk live up too.
You don't think? You think pronghorn live up there?
No.
My son Lincoln, his favorite critter is the pronghorn. And so the excitement in his voice when he sees a pronghorn, he says, "Daddy, Daddy, pronghorn, pronghorn." That's what fuels me every single day. So that generation and generations that come after him, his kids, their kids, can enjoy the resource like we have it today. Maybe have it better than we have it today.